Greetings and welcome back to the Casual Wargamer. This past weekend, I had the opportunity to play my first 10th edition tournament. My local game store holds one, a 40k tournament at the beginning of every month, and this was our first of 10th. And although I had had a couple of games previously in practice, this was going to be an experience. I ummed and ahed over my list. I've made a few changes. I will pop my list down below so you can all probably laugh at it. But basically, I took a Captain in Terminator Armour with the Honour Vehement Enhancement. I took a Primaris Lieutenant with the Neo-volkite pistol and Storm Shield with the Bolt Discipline Enhancement. Knowing that there was Assassinate as a thing, I didn't particularly want to field too many characters, and 2 seemed to be about right. The Terminator Captain obviously went with Terminators, and the Lieutenant went with an Intercessor Squad. And I had 2 5-man Intercessor Squads. These are basic, no frills. One unit, the Sergeant had a power sword rather than a close combat weapon, because I had the model. And I've been umming and ahhing because my original lists went with Hellblasters instead of Intercessors. Try and get those better AP, better damage shots in. With an apothecary. That wasn't playing out, so I went, right, we've still got to play BATTLELINE. Let's try 2 intercessors since they give me sticky objectives. I took the Ballistus Dreadnought because, hey, everyone is saying that you need to take, or a lot of people are saying you need to take about a quarter of your list needs to be some form of anti-tank or anti-monster, and the Ballistus seemed like a really good choice. To go with that, I took a 5-man Desolator Squad with the super crack launchers. I also took one of my favourites from 9th, which was an Eliminator Squad with the sniper rifles, who unfortunately it turns out I've been replaced effectively by scout snipers now, so they were a little bit of a waste in this event. And then obviously I had the 5 Terminators that come in the Leviathan box. So a very basic list, which didn't give me a lot of models. But I'm doing this for fun, so hey ho. Now we have a good range of people in our local store. They run from people who do go to big tournaments through to people who still play competitive in stores, and then you get me who just likes to roll some dice and move some models about a table. And I always enjoy these events. It's getting to hang, even though I don't come anywhere near to winning. I might win one game. I like to hang around with the peeps that come down. They're a good bunch of guys, and that's what makes the day for me. So even though my list was crap and my ability to play seemed to be really bad, it's a social thing that brings me down for the games. Okay, so first round I was facing the Tyranids, and my opponent is a very good player. He brought a list that was part classic models, part Leviathan new guys, and we got the Hammer and Anvil deployment, Chilling Rain for missions, so nothing special, and Sites of Power as the primary objective. So we're starting opposite ends of the table, and as seems to happen a lot in my games, the first half of the game I do really well. I didn't put the Terminators in Deep Strike this time. I thought I would walk them up the table because I wanted to see how survivable they were. And although I could have just deep struck them down on a following turn, I really wanted to try and get to see whether I could get them onto an objective to score those extra points to start with. Didn't really happen. So as I say, I struggled in this game a little bit because I'm still learning 10th, and I really struggled trying to get my head around the weapon keyword types now. And for some reason I got myself a little bit flustered, which I must apologise to my opponent. Getting things like critical hits and devastating wounds all like mixed up in my head, which was very bad of me. I should have perhaps chilled, deep breath, and as I say, I got a little bit flustered. But I was doing all right in this game up until about halfway, and then I got hit by his big gribbly monsters. So on one flank, I got hit by the Psychophage, backed up by some Zoanthropes, and on the other side, I got hit by the Swarmlord and the Parasite of Mortrex. I'd done quite a bit of damage to these little guys, but the monsters just tore through me. I just didn't have a lot that could deal with them. I ended up having two really cool moments in the game. One, a group of gargoyles deep struck behind my lines, charged into the intercessors holding my base objective. I think they killed one intercessor, and then the intercessors basically tore. I think they killed like 7 gargoyles down, and it didn't take much to finish the remaining off on the next turn, which I was quite pleased, because normally close combat intercessors, nah. My opponent was a little bit shocked by that, I think. The other one, which was really cool, was, and I know this is really silly, it was just the fight between the Terminator Captain and the Psychophage. It was, quite frankly, a combat of little nicks and wounds. We were just slowly peppering each other down before my captain finally put that blade through the beast's head. But it was a little too late, and my opponent managed to rack up the score. And I didn't have a lot left by that stage. It was a good game. As I say, I got myself a little bit flustered. Really needed to just chill, take a deep breath, and sort of step back into it. But that was a great game. Second round, I drew up against Necrons. And this was interesting. My first game of 10th was against Necrons, and they mullered me. So I was kind of dreading this a little bit. This time round, we got Dawn of War, Chosen Battlefield, and Priority Targets. So sort of like facing across each other on the table. My opponent had a number of infantry units and some big walkers and one of those canoptic spider things for healing them. And I basically had to try and get rid of whatever, as much as I could. I was a bit concerned about the walkers, the machines, and I think I had Bring It Down as one of my first secondaries. And I did manage to get rid of the spider. But that's where it all sort of fell apart. As the game progressed, I just could not get forward enough. I was taking heavy casualties, and whatever I did do to his walkers or his units, they were simply just standing back up or healing. And it was really difficult. I had a bit better control of of my understanding of the rules and stuff now. I think it was just, getting myself eased into something a little bit more competitive I had played. This was a really good game, but one that I could see me losing very, very early on. Moment of the game, my opponent decided to basically fly his tomb blades around the corner towards my Desolators, and the Desolators went Overwatch. And literally, I don't know, the 6s were flying, and pretty much I wiped out the entire unit in Overwatch with grenades and crack missiles. And it was like, you boys have just earned yourself a cup of tea at the end of this game. But again, another loss. It was another game where I felt to start with I was doing all right, and then everything turned against me. In this one, though, I don't think it was so much my tactics as my dice just didn't want to know, and my opponent's resurrection rolls and whatnot were just phenomenal. Really good game, though. Really enjoyed it. The last round of the match put me up against Chaos Space Marine, specifically Black Legion. The player in question, when we played in, I think it was the last tournament of 9th, played this a similar list, a Black Legion list with Abaddon, and I was really hoping to see Abaddon on the table, but he wasn't there. And this mission was Hammer and Anvil, Hidden Supplies, Take and Hold. And I think this was perhaps probably the closest game I got all day. We only do 3 rounds. We do the afternoon into the evening. So this was the last one as it got into the it got to tea time and then onwards. The problem I had here, though, and I felt I did quite well holding my own. The problem I had here was my opponent's list was very much made up of maneuverable units, whereas my army wasn't. I was lacking on that. He had fast-moving possessed, who basically tore through the Dreadnought and were throwing body parts here, there, and everywhere. Some cultisty guys sat at the back holding the objectives for him. Raptors, Warp Talons. He had the speed, he had the maneuverability, and I did do a lot of damage. I did get through. The Terminators did a lot. What was the other thing he had? A Venom Crawler, which was phenomenal for him. But I just could not get up to the points. I just couldn't strike down enough of his models. In fact, he was killing off his own possessed as we were going along. But it was, it was a bloodbath, this last game. So at the end of that, I came 7th out of 8, which I was happy with. I was fully expecting to come last. The chap who won was my friend Luke from Fishy Gaming, who brought a very twinky Chaos Knight list, Chaos Knights, I should say, which I, in a way, am thankful I did not get to face. It was a great day's gaming. I think we all learned a bit more of the interactions on 10th, and we're still doing so even now. There's still a lot that we don't notice and things that I've got wrong. And by looks, it had been getting wrong since 9th. But it was a great day. Got to push the models around, got to roll some dice, and game with some really good chaps. How did my army work out in the end? Well, this is my thoughts. The Terminators I expected to do better. Even on the 2nd and 3rd game where they deep struck, they didn't do a lot. I think they worked better against the Black Legion than they did against the Necrons or the Tyranids, but they still were getting whittled down far too easily. The Eliminators ended up being a little bit of a waste of space. As I said, in future, I think they're going to end up being replaced by some scouts with sniper rifles. Desolators are always good. I only ever run them in 5-man squads because I'm not going to be that guy. But I always take them with the crack rocket launchers because they are they are a good source of taking out elite infantry or doing some damage to vehicles and monsters. The Ballistus Dreadnought, it's good for that role, but in these 3 games, I think it was too many points. I could have had something else in there, a different unit, maybe something that could have done better for me. Intercessors are basic, as is, and I can't complain about the 2 characters. All in all, a good game, a good learning experience. And if you ever find yourself down Cambridge Way, do a Google search, look for Games Hub St Neots, and maybe we'll see you down there for one of the future tournaments. Until then, take care, guys. Thanks for watching. Good gaming.